Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. Om Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyoma Vatvyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Let's take a sankalpa. Namaste. All right. So, last class we started with looking into how actually this universe is made. Okay. So, how the Sukshma Sharir actually comes into being, how it is actually formed. And now today we are going to see how the Sthoola Sharir or the Sthoola Prapancha, this Sthoola universe, how it actually comes into being. So last class we saw that all the 5 elements has a sattvic component, they have a rajasic component, and they have a tamasic component. So we have a sattvic component of Akasha, we have a rajasic component of Akasha, we have a tamasic component of Akasha. Same way, Vayu, Agni, Jala, Prithvi, all of these, all the 5 elements, they have a sattvic component, a rajasic component, and a tamasic component. Correct? Now, we saw that out of these 15 components that we got, okay, 5 sattvic, 5 rajasic, and 5 tamasic. Out of these 15 components, उनके permutation combination से क्या-क्या बनता है? Okay, so we saw that from the, what happens from the sattvic component. So the sattvic component of Akasha, that gives rise to the sense of hearing. The sattvic component of Vayu gives rise to the sense of touch, sparsha. The sattvic component of Agni gives rise to the sense of sight. The sattvic component of Jala, water, it gives rise to the sense of taste. And the sattvic component of Prithvi gives rise to the sense of smell. So basically, the sattvic component of these individual elements are responsible for the sense organs of knowledge, for the 5 Jnanendriyas, okay, which are the part of the Sukshma Prapancha, the Sukshma Sharira. So the sattvic component of these elements is responsible for the Pancha Jnanendriyas. Now, the sattvic component of all these 5 subtle elements together, पहले जो ज्ञानेंद्रियास बन रही थी, they were made of individual elements, the sattvic component of individual elements. But the sattvic component of Akash, Vayu, Agni, Jala, and Prithvi together, that forms the Antakarana. Okay. Then we saw that the same way, the rajasic component of Akasha, the Rajasic component of Vayu, Agni, Jala and Prithvi, they are responsible for the Panchakarmendriyas. So Rajasic component of Akasha is the power behind the organ of speech, the talking tongue, Vak. Rajasic component of Vayu, responsible for the power behind the hands. Rajasic component of Agni, the power behind the legs. Rajasic component of Jala is the power behind the genitals. And Rajasic component of Prithvi is the power behind the organ of evacuation. So all the 5 karmendriyas, they are born out of the Rajasic component of the Pancha Mahabhutas, the Sukshma Bhutas, okay? And what is the connection? The Rajasic component, the Rajoguna means the Kriya Shakti. Kriya Shakti has to be responsible for the karmendriyas. Jaise the Sattva Guna is the Jnana Shakti. So Jnana Shakti was responsible for the 5 sense organs of knowledge, the Jnanendriyas. So same way the karmendriyas, they are backed up by the Rajasic components, the Kriya Shakti. And the Rajasic component of all the 5 subtle elements together, all the 5 Sukshma Pancha Mahabhutas together, they form the Pancha Pranas. So idhar tak humne dekha last class. All right. So we have used by now, we have used the sattvic components of the 5 subtle elements, and we have used the Rajasic component. Okay. So now all the 19 components of the Sukshma Shariram, we know how they are created, how they are manifested, right? Out of the Sattva Guna component and the Rajasic component of the Pancha Mahabhutas. So that much we know. Now we have to come to the third and final stage of creation. Sukshma Prapancha mein se Sthoola Prapancha kaise banta hai? How does this gross, visible, tangible universe, how does that come? जो universe हम देख सकते हैं, हम touch कर सकते हैं, feel कर सकते हैं, how does that come? So we have utilized the Sattva component of the 5 elements. We have used the Rajas components also to create the Sukshma Prapancha, right? But we have not utilized the Tamas component of the 5 elements. So the scriptures point out that the Tamas component of the same 5 elements, par unka Tamas component, okay, that those 5 Tamas components of the 5 elements, they alone get grossified to form the 5 gross elements. Pancha Sthoola Bhutas. So the 5 gross elements which we can see, which we can sense through our sense organs, those 5 gross elements, they are born or they are manifested from the Tamo Gun of the 5 subtle elements. Again, it is very obvious, जैसे हमने देखा कि the Jnana Shakti means the Sattva Gun component was used for the Jnanendriyas. And the mind, the Antakaranam, which is behind the Jnanendriyas. And the Kriya Shakti, that is the Rajogun, that was used for the Karmendriyas. Obviously, the action, the doing faculty, and the Pranas, which is the energy behind the doing faculties. That comes from the Rajogun because that is the Kriya Shakti. So same way it is obvious that Tamogun of these 5 elements, that will form the gross body. Because the gross body in itself, we know it is just a statue. So the only Shakti that a gross body itself has is inertia. It only has Dravya Shakti. The gross body in itself has no Jnana Shakti, no Kriya Shakti. Jnana Shakti and Kriya Shakti belong to the Sukshma Shariram. the Sthoola Shariram does not have either of the Shaktis. It has only the Dravya Shakti. That is why when a person dies and when the Sukshma Shariram, the subtle body, when it leaves the gross body, then the person just lies there like a vegetable, inert, insentient, right? Having only the Dravya Shakti. So obviously Atma is present. That you have to remember. Atma is all pervading. It is present. It is always present. But still a person lies inert because the reflecting medium is not there. No, the subtle body is not there. It has left the gross body. So only the Dravya Shakti is there. So the Tamogun component will be used to make the gross body. And the process in which the Tamogun of the subtle elements forms the gross elements, that process is called Panchikaranam by the Shastra, or grossification. We can call it grossification in English. It is called Panchikaranam. It is a popular term, so try and remember it. Panchikaranam matlab grossification of the 5 subtle elements to form the gross body. So grossification ke pehle, until the grossification, every element was isolated. It was pure. That means the elements were not adulterated or mixed with each other. Matlab sirf akasha se so the individual elements were working. But when grossification takes place, what happens? A mixture, like all the elements get intermixed. So like a bhel or a salad, okay, a bhel or a salad is formed out of the tamas component of all the 5 elements, of all the 5 sukshma elements, okay. So when we saw the subtle body, how it was made using individual elements. So the formation of the subtle body was something like eating a banana separately, eating a papaya separately, eating grapes separately. But grossification mein kya hoga? Panchikaranam or grossification, usme it's like eating a fruit salad. Okay, sab saath mein aa jayega. So once you come to the 5 grossified elements, so each element, matlab gross earth also has all the 5 elements, gross water also has all the 5 elements, gross Agni also has all the 5 elements, gross Vayu, gross Akasha has got all the 5 elements in it. Okay, so each gross element that we see, Akash, Vayu, Jala, Agni, Prithvi, all the 5 gross elements is a mixture of the Tamoguna component of all the 5 subtle elements. Now the question will come that if every element, okay, if every element is a mixture of all the 5, the Tamoguna component of all the 5 subtle elements, then there will be only one gross element, no? क्योंकि हर एक हम बोल रहे हैं कि पृथ्वी में भी 5 एलिमेंट्स है, जल में भी 5 एलिमेंट्स है, और आकाश, वायु, अग्नि सभी में 5 एलिमेंट्स है. तो अलग अलग कैसे हो रहे हैं? They are a combination of all these 5 elements only. So there has to be only one gross element. How can there be 5 gross elements? So there cannot be separate space, separate water, separate vayu, separate fire, separate earth. एक ही एक element होना चाहिए, है ना? But the thing is, we have 5 separate elements because although each gross element is made up of the tamoguna component of all the 5 subtle elements, but the proportion of the 5 elements is not same. So the gross elements are named based on the predominance of the elements in them. ठीक है, अभी बहुत abstract sound कर रहा होगा, so I I have made a diagram and I'll just show you. Here. Yeah. So, see, suppose ये जो just imagine हाँ कि ये जो red color का circle दिख रहा है, that is Prithvi. Okay, that is the tamogun component of Prithvi. Okay, remember that. The orange one is the tamogun component of water. The yellow one is the tamogun component of fire. The green one is the tamogun component of air. And the blue one is the tamogun component of space. Okay. Now, when you grossify, what happens? Scriptures say that gross space, look at this lower line mein jo right hand side ka, the rightmost circle. So grossified space, okay, that grossified space has got all the 5 elements in the following proportion. So the gross space has 50% space component. Tamogun component of space, okay, wo 50% hai, and 1/8 is the other. Sorry, my diagram is wrong. I have made 3/4, like 75% and 25%. But just for your understanding, you can just understand it as like how a larger component is basically space, और छोटा सा component में बाकी सारे elements आते हैं. So grossified space means it has 1/2 or 50% of the tamogun component of space plus 1/8 of air, 1/8 of fire, 1/8 of water, and 1/8 of earth. So the other 4 elements will only be in 1/8, 1/8, 1/8 proportion. Like remember the Panch Pandavas, okay? When they sit to eat, what happens? How did Kunti Mata used to distribute the food? Kya hota tha ki when they sit for food, out of the total quantity of food, half of the food it goes to Bhim, right? And from the rest half, from the other half which is left behind, the other 4 Pandavas used to eat. So Bhim used to get half of the entire food, and all the other 4 Pandavas used to get 1/8, 1/8, 1/8. So that kind of division happens in Panchikaranam. Okay, so I will, yeah, here. So you can read this. So gross space is made up of half space, 1/8 air, 1/8 fire, 1/8 water, 1/8 earth. This is called Panchikaranam. Okay, this is how the space that we feel, okay, that the space which is enclosed between the walls of the room, this is how that space is formed. And then the same thing happens with other elements also. So gross space has got half space and 1/8 of the rest of the elements. Similarly, gross air has got half air and 1/8 of the other elements. Gross water has got half water and 1/8 of the other elements. Gross earth has got half earth and 1/8, 1/8, 1/8 of the other 4 elements. So this process of making salad is called Panchikaranam, grossification. So just jo earth hame, which we can touch, which we can smell, which we can basically perceive through all the 5 of our sense organs, that gross earth does not have only one element, Prithvi. एक ही element नहीं है, एक ही from all the Panchamahabhutas, earth does not have only one Panchamahabhuta, that is earth, the Prithvi itself, but it is a combination of all the five elements, but the predominant element is earth. The predominant element is Prithvi, while the other four elements are in like 12.5%. Okay, 1/8 of the proportion. So this is called Panchikaranam, grossification. This is how the five tangible gross elements are born. The physical earth means the Sthoola Prithvi, which we can touch, which we can feel. Then physical water, the tangible water, that is Sthulam. Then fire, then air, and Sthoola Akasha, the gross space, which we can utilize. They are born by this Panchikaranam of the tamas component of the five subtle elements. Okay. So now we know that when we are drinking water or any other liquid, we know that it is not only the Jalatattvam that we are consuming. It is all the five elements. That is what we are consuming. Okay. So that is how it happens. This is called Panchikaranam. This is called grossification. Okay. And this is how all the five gross elements are born. So this is how the five, what do we call, raw materials are born. And once these five raw materials, the five gross elements are born, then out of these five gross elements, the entire cosmos, including our physical bodies, okay, including the plants, the animals, the entire Prithvi, the entire universe, that is born. The entire Sthula Srishti, the gross universe, is born out of these five elements. So Maya, the causal universe, that is Anadi, that is there since the beginning. Out of that Trigunatmika Maya, okay, the Maya which has these three strands of Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Out of that Maya comes the subtle universe, right? We saw the five subtle elements come, and out of that the subtle universe comes, and out of that through Panchikaranam the gross universe comes, okay, which is the Sthoola Prapancha, the Sthoola Abhivyakti. So this is how the entire creation comes about. The whole cosmos, the whole universe is manifested. So this creation, which is thus created, which it is thus manifested, that creation will last for some time. Then again it will collapse, again it will go to its unmanifested form, to its causal form, which is Maya. Okay. So when all this drama is happening, okay, all this drama of Srishti, Sthiti, and then again Pralay, and then again Srishti, Sthiti, Pralay. When all this drama is happening, what is our hero? What is our Brahman doing? Nothing. It just remains. It just is present. So consciousness just remains. It is just there all the time. But it just remains doing nothing. It just remains. And when the appropriate condition comes, it manifests again in the form of life. When manifesting conditions are not there, the DNAs, RNAs, the cells are not formed. But consciousness still remains at that time. But it remains unmanifested because there is no reflecting medium. Sirf utna farak hai. When during Pralay time, there is no reflecting medium, so the consciousness just remains unmanifested. It cannot express itself. But when there is Srishti, the consciousness manifests itself in the form of existence, of this entire universe, in the form of consciousness that is there in all the jivas, right? In the form of this infiniteness. Okay. So this is all about the Vedic cosmology. This is what our Shastras talk about, how the creation came into being. Okay. All right. Now, before we started this topic of Panchikaranam, that how this universe actually came about, before the study of cosmology, we saw the main theme of the Vedantic teaching, and that is Jiva Ishvara Aikhya Jnanam, otherwise called Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam. Aikyam means oneness. It means oneness or non-difference. Okay. And the idea that is conveyed over here is that Atma or Brahman or consciousness, it is only Ekam. It is only one. That one Chaitanyam alone is expressing through matter in millions of different forms. Right? It is just one expressing through different forms. Like we had seen these hundreds of different tubs also, if you fill with water, it is the same original sun that reflects through it, right? So when the consciousness or this Chaitanyam, when it is functioning through individual matter or the Shariratrayam, then that consciousness gets the name of Jivatma or individual. And when that same consciousness, it is functioning behind the total matter, or which we call the Prapanchatrayam, okay, the universe, when it is functioning behind the total matter, the whole universe, that same very consciousness or Chaitanyam is called Ishvara. It's the same consciousness when it functions through the Shariratrayam, it is called Jivatma, and when it functions through the Prapanchatrayam, then it is called Ishvara. So that same consciousness alone is called Jivatma as well as Ishvara, Paramatma, from the standpoint of the medium through which it reflects. Like space. When it is inside the space, when it is inside the pot, we call it Ghatakash or pot space. When it is outside the pot, we call it Mahaakash or universal space. And once cognitively, means in your imagination, in your thoughts, once cognitively the Anatma medium is removed, the matter medium is removed, then there is neither Jivatma nor the Paramatma. There is only Atma. The suffixes are removed. Then there is only Atma or Brahman. So then it is neither called Jivatma nor Ishvara. It is just pure consciousness. This actually is the third and the final understanding of God, which we saw months back, right? That time it was a bit abstract. But I'm sure now it is clear what we say by the substratum, right? When we say that the final understanding of Ishvara is non-different from myself. So one Atma functioning through the Anatma gets two different names, Jivatma and Paramatma, or Jiva and Ishvara. And that one Atma is my true self. That one Atma, I am that one Atma, and I am called Jivatma when I'm functioning behind this body, and I myself am called Ishvara when I'm functioning behind the whole universe. This is the basic teaching. Okay, Aham Sat Chit Ananda Brahma Asmi. Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam. And this self-knowledge that Aham Brahmasmi or Tattvamasi, that I am, that Ishvara, that Paramatma, I am. So I'm not different from that. So these Mahavakyams, what they say, Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi, that is what we call self-knowledge. This Jivatma, Paramatma, Aikyam is what we call self-knowledge. What we have been saying for all these months, Atmajnanam, so many sadhanas we talked about to attain this Atmajnanam. It is this knowledge only that we are seeking through years and years of study and sadhana. It is this jnanam that Aham Brahmasmi. I am that Satchidananda Brahman and I am one with Paramatma, Jivatma, Paramatma, Aikyam. So, this is Atmajnanam. This is self-knowledge. So, we already know what it is, right? So now the obvious question is, what do we gain out of it? हमें तो पता चल गया. So what is the benefit of gaining self-knowledge? So why are we even doing so much of sadhana? Why is it even required to do so much mehnat to assimilate this knowledge? Shravanam se jnanam to mil gaya. I know it now. Like how all smokers, right, who are addicted to smoking, all of them know that cigarette smoking is injurious to health. So jnanam to unke paas hai, unko pata chal gaya, but have they been able to implement it? Have they been able to, after getting that knowledge, have they been able to make a transformation in themselves? So that is what we have to attain. We have to assimilate this knowledge. Okay. तो उसके लिए इतना सब मेहनत करना पड़ेगा. The sadhanas we will have to go through. तो उसके लिए हमें पता तो होना चाहिए ना कि what is the benefit, what is the ज्ञान फलम. तो इतनी सारी मेहनत करके what is the benefit of assimilating this Atmajnana? So let us look at that topic now. So our Shastras, they present the benefit of assimilating this Atmajnanam in two forms. Okay? So there are two parts of it. The first part is the benefit while we are alive. That is what is called Jeevan Mukti. And the second benefit is benefit after death, which we call Videha Mukti. So we will get Jnana Phalam in two forms. In the form of Jeevan Mukti, that is what we are going to enjoy while we are alive. And see, the process has already started. Okay, the process of assimilating this knowledge has already started. The more and more we assimilate it, the more and more we enjoy this Jeevan Mukti. Right? So that is the whole purpose. Okay? We can enjoy our moksha right here, right now. We don't have to wait to reach somewhere. We don't have to wait till we give up this body. We can enjoy it right here, right now. That is what is called Jeevan Mukti. And the second part of the benefit is Videha Mukti. That is the benefits that we get after we drop this physical body. So let us look at Jeevan Mukti first. So Jeevan Mukti, it is the result or the fruit or the virtue, the phalam that is enjoyed at the mental level in various forms. Okay. Jeevan Mukti is basically at the mental level, the enjoyment, the freedom, the independence that we get at the mental level. Okay. Understand this very clearly. Physically, kuch nahi badalne wala. It is not going to happen at the physical level. Okay. See, through the Panchamahayagnas or through the tapas that we do, through the dhanam, we will be definitely able to ward off a lot of obstacles in the journey of our lives. Definitely. But there might be certain very, very strong past karma phalas. Okay, they might be there in our bag of this janma prarabdha. Okay, so those very, very strong karma phalas, we will have to undergo. They cannot be washed off by yajna, dana, tapa and your good karmas of this janma. So it could be in the form of some painful disease. It could be some pain inflicting close relative. It could be lack of resources in spite of doing a lot of hard work. It could be dullness. It could be unfavorable or any other choiceless situations. Okay. Those kind of unfavorable choiceless situations, we call them prabala prarabdha. So if at all, okay, it's not that it is there in everybody's lives, but if at all there is some prabala prarabdha in our lot, then physically whatever we have to go through, that we will have to go through anyways. जैसे किसी हमारे कर्म फल की वजह से कोई congenital disease है तो है, okay, that is going to remain. So assimilating the Atma Jnanam is not going to free us from that disease, right? But the way these tapatrayam affect us, okay, the way these unfavorable situations, the way they affect us, that will completely change. Because see, this thing is knowledge, right? So it gives benefit at the mental level. It gives you a cushioning. It gives you a padding against the pain. Swamiji says that you will be immunized to any kind of pain. So that is how Jeevan Mukti works. Let us see the other benefits. Okay, the Shastras have clearly given 3 main benefits that we get as we enjoy the Jeevan Mukti. The first benefit and the most important benefit is independence, swatantra. So I am mentally, emotionally, or psychologically an independent person. That means the presence and absence of things or beings will not affect me emotionally. See, only when I'm dependent on external factors, anything outside of me, when I'm dependent on that, only then their presence or absence will upset me emotionally. Hai na? In fact, Swamiji says that the word upset, okay, the word upset is actually the reversed form of the word setup. So when any kind of setup is disturbed, it becomes upset. When the family setup is disturbed, then I become upset. When the neighborhood setup is disturbed, when the national setup is disturbed, when the global setup is disturbed, when my body, mind, sense complex setup is disturbed, I am upset. Why? Why am I upset? Because I depend on this setup for my emotional balance, right? And when this setup is disturbed, that is when my emotional support is gone, no? Because I'm leaning on this setup for my emotional balance. And that is why I become upset when this setup is disturbed. So Jnana, it gives me this emotional balance. Okay, it gives me this emotional independence. It gives me this balance without depending on any of these external factors. Whether it is a person, whether it is a situation, whether it is an object, I don't depend on any of them. Okay, money is there in plenty, wonderful. Money goes away, even then wonderful only. House is there, house goes away, I'm still enjoying my infinite Ananda Swabhava, my Swarupa, my Ananda Swarupa. I am still enjoying it, whether the house is there or house is not there. Whether the status is there when I am employed, yes, and when I'm employed, when I have status, when I have respect from everybody around me, I am happy. But after retirement, when even in our own house, the status is reduced, even that time when respect comes, respect goes, position comes, position goes, I am not dependent on that. I'm not dependent on them. So what happens? The presence or absence of resources, the presence or absence of things, the presence or absence of beings, of people, of my kith and kin, that does not affect me at all. And when you examine your life, you will realize that these are the things that you try to complete yourself with. You try to just get these things, these beings, and getting them or associating with them makes you feel temporarily Purna. Okay, so you try to complete yourself with these things, by depending on these things. And what happens? By depending on these things, eventually you fall into immense sorrow, because all these things, all these beings, they are also temporary only, no? They also have their own limitations, because they also belong to the Anatma Prapancha only, no? So once you know that you yourself are Ananta Swarupa, you yourself are Purna, you will never depend on anything for your happiness, for your Purnatvam. They will all be there. You will give them immense love. You will give them your best. Okay. But there will be no psychological dependence, no emotional dependence. Okay. So for the same reason, I don't seek company. I don't even feel loneliness. Only, like, see, when one grows old, no, one of the biggest fears of old age is the fear of loneliness. But all these worries, they do not affect us, because we are independent. We are Purna. So I am not afraid of company. I am not afraid of being alone also. I enjoy the solitude. Okay. So it's not that I run away from company. It is not that I run away or escape or even hate this Anatma Prapancha. Okay. There is no aversion for anything. I am not attached to it. I'm not emotionally dependent on it. I do not even have an aversion for it. I don't need it. Yes, it is there. Very good. I will enjoy it while it is there. If it is not there also, very good. So basically, it is a psychological independence that we attain. Okay, when we say Jeevan Mukti means the Jnana Phalam, it gives us independence. We mean a psychological independence, emotional independence. Because physical independence is not possible. Physically, we have to depend upon the world. We require food, clothing, water. So physical independence we can never get. As we grow old, we may require a stick, or we may require some person to hold on to walk. So physical dependence, nobody can avoid. But once you get this psychological independence, physical dependence will not bother us. It is the psychological independence that frees us from all the pains of the physical dependence. So that is one benefit of gaining self-knowledge. That is one benefit of what we call Jnana Phalam. So this is the one thing that we can enjoy while we are alive as a fruit of the self-knowledge. That is independence. The second benefit is Purnatvam. Purnatvam means the sense of fulfillment in life. Because I know that I am the Atma. That is my true self. So I know that I am not this body. My self is not confined to this limited body, but I am the Atma, which is Satchidananda Swarupa. Therefore, I am free from the limitations of this body. Before that, I would have been suffering from so many complexes. I am dark, I am fat, I am short, I am dull. So many different kind of complexes we would be suffering from. But when I gain Atmanyanam, I know that I am Satchidananda Swarupa. So I am free from all these limitations. They are only, the limitations belong to the adhyasa. Okay? They don't belong to me. They belong to the superimposition that is there on my true self. Right? The redness belongs to the tablecloth. It does not belong to the crystal. Correct? वो देखा था ना example में. So I am free from all these limitations. Nothing is away from me. I am limitless. I am all pervading. So I will be, that sense of rejection bhi jo aata hai na, the sense of I am not good enough. I am, I need to get this to feel good about myself. I need to feel, I need to become this. So this being and becoming ka jo pura cycle hai na, usse freedom mil jayega, because we will know that we are Purna. So I can never be rejected. Aham Purna Asmi. I can never feel that I am not good enough. I cannot ever feel that I lack this or I lack that. I need to gain this. I need to grab that. No. I know I don't need any validation also from anyone. So there is no fear of anything, because there is no second. Aham Purna, whom there is no second to be afraid of, right? And so when I start assimilating, okay, when I start internalizing this Purnatvam, then I am free from Kama, I am free from Krodha, from Lobha, Moha, Matsarya. How is all these things going to be possible? Only because Aham Purna, whom do I have to feel jealous of? I am complete, I am infinite. What is there? What is left also to feel jealous of, right? To desire. What is left to have Kama for? Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. I am free from all these Shadvairis when I start enjoying, when I start internalizing this Purnatva. So the infinite I cannot have any of these binding desires or any of these enemies. Okay, no anger, no greed, no delusion, no jealousy. So this is the second benefit of assimilating this knowledge, that is Purnatvam. Start enjoying this Purnatvam, this fullness, this completeness. So the first benefit was independence, psychological independence. The second benefit is Purnatvam. And the third benefit is Samatvam. So Swamiji says Samatvam. Samatvam means the emotional strength to face all the ups and downs of life. What we call equanimity. So this Atmagnanam, this self-knowledge which we get, we know our true self, and that becomes a great shock absorber, like in a vehicle. So when the vehicle drives through the roads, there are so many potholes, especially in this season, especially in Bombay. There are so many potholes. So we can't go out and repair all the potholes, right? Because that is not in our control. I have no control over the potholes of the road, but I can put a shock absorber in the vehicle. And once I have the shock absorber, so that part is under my control, no? Fixing the potholes is not under my control, but having a shock absorber in my vehicle is under my control. पूरी दुनिया के potholes तो मैं भरने नहीं जा सकती हूँ ना, पर एक shock absorber वाला vehicle रख सकती हूँ. That is under my control. So then what happens when I have this shock absorber? Then even though there are still going to be all these millions of potholes, they will still be there, but it hardly affects me. Without the shock absorber, without the shock absorbers, imagine what will happen, okay, with these kind of potholes. But now that shock absorber is there, it hardly affects me, does not affect me so much. Similarly, in life, there are so many aspects of my life which I cannot control, right? They are out of so many future situations. They may be out of my control. They are beyond my control. How my husband or wife will behave in the next moment, I don't know. How the children are going to be behaving with me once they grow up, I don't know. How anything will happen, like how my next moment is going to turn out. There are so many things which are not in my control. Yes, I can definitely work towards making things favorable, but still there are a lot of things which may be out of my control. So वो सब चीजों को handle करने के लिए, instead of trying to control everything in this whole world, in all the people, like trying to change my husband, trying to change my neighbors, trying to change the government, ये सारी चीजों से को change करने से अच्छा क्या होगा? Put a neat jnanam shock absorber. It will converge all the emotional shocks that you get. It will dilute them. So anything happens, okay? Guruna pe dukkhena. The biggest of the biggest traumatic situation that may come in your life. Okay, even if the greatest tragedy falls upon a jnani might be slightly affected perhaps, but the tragedy is definitely not going to overpower the jnani. Okay, the jnani has this immunity. That is what we call samatvam. Okay, samatvam means equanimity. You can smoothly glide through all the ups and downs of life, all the tragedies, all the trauma that can come. You can smoothly glide through them when you have this shock absorber, when you have this cushioning of Atmajnana. So this is what we call Jeevan Mukti. It can be presented as independence, fullness, and balance of mind. So Swatantriyam, Purnatvam, and Samatvam. So as long as I am alive, as long as I am in this physical body, I can thoroughly enjoy these benefits. And if you will analyze, you will come to know that once you start enjoying this, तो कोई problems ही नहीं रहेंगे life में. So this is Jeevan Mukti. So we are dismissing all the problems as mithya. We are enjoying our Jeevan Mukti. And so there is no postponement, okay? Here and now, you can, at this moment, you can start enjoying your Jeevan Mukti. You don't have to wait for, something to strike you under a Bodhi tree, or you don't have to wait for reaching Swargaloka or Vaikuntha or Kailash or anywhere. Right here, right now, in whatever situation you are, you can start enjoying this. Okay, so slowly, as we start assimilating it more and more, assimilating this Atmajnana more and more, we start enjoying this Jeevan Mukti more and more. So that is one part of the Jnana Phalam. The second part of the Jnana Phalam is what we said, Videha Mukti. So the word Jeevan Mukti means freedom while living. And Videha Mukti means the mukti that happens after giving up this body. So uske liye first we need to understand what happens to an ignorant person after death. एक अज्ञानी के साथ क्या होता है after death. When we understand that, only then we can understand what happens to a jnani after death. Right? So in case of an ajnani, at the time of death, the physical body, the sthula shariram is dropped. We all know that, right? So the physical body decays, it is cremated, or in whatever way, it decays, it decomposes, and it merges into the Pancha Mahabhutas, the 5 elements, right? But we are talking about the case of an ajnani, all right? The case of an ignorant person who doesn't have self-knowledge. Okay? So, what happens? Even though the sthula shariram, the physical body, it has perished, it has decomposed, it has merged with the Pancha Mahabhutas. But the ajnani's sukshma shariram, subtle body, and the ajnani's karana shariram, the causal body, they still continue to exist. And this subtle and causal body, along with the Atma, we need not say Atma, because Atma is all pervading. It is there. It is a constant. It is understood. So this subtle body and causal body, they continue to survive even after the fall of the physical body. Then what happens to this Ajnani? So these Sukshma Karana Shariram, they acquire another gross body and the journey continues. So it may acquire the body here itself, or it may acquire the body in any other loka. Nobody knows. It could happen now also, or it could happen after hundreds of years. Nobody knows even that. So an Ajnani keeps traveling. Even after death, the Ajnani will keep traveling in an infinite journey of, so in the sense that his Sukshma Shariram and Karana Shariram, they keep traveling, acquiring another physical body, which is called Punarjanma or rebirth. So dropping one body is death and acquiring another body is rebirth, Punarjanma. Then again, acquiring this body, go through this life, go through the samsara, go through all the vidhi, vyadhi, jara, maranam. So that means go through all the worries, illness, pains, old age, decay, and death. And then again acquire another body. And it need not be the healthy, strong human body that we are enjoying right now in this Janma. It could be a crippled body. It could be the body of a maggot, or a body of somebody born in the worst of the geographical conditions or worst of political conditions. But it continues. For an Ajnani, this cycle, this journey continues. Shankaracharya in his Bhaja Govindam keeps saying, he says, Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani, jatare shayanam. Means this painful cycle of samsara, it just goes on. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. So it just goes on and on and on continuously for an Ajnani. Whereas in the case of Jnani, it is said in the scriptures that at the time of death, what happens to a Jnani? Oh, okay. It is time. So, all right. So we've seen what happens to an Ajnani after death. Huh? So next class, we'll see what happens to a Jnani after death. So we'll see what is Videha Mukti. Okay? All right. We'll end here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you. Padmini ji, any questions?
No, madam. Thank you.
All right.
Today's
Thank
class
you.
is very good, madam. Today's class is very good.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Padmini ji. Namaste.
Okay. Namaste.